I guess this is going to be episode 2 of the new era of the Detroit City Sportscast. I am Adam Hernandez. With me is Garret Comets.
Hey.
How we doing tonight?
I'm doing really good. I just got done with the Hey Eintracht Frankfurt podcast, so I got to get the therapy that I had out over that situation for the German club I love. But man, between Crystal Palace, there's 451 refers to it as Christmas Palace, and our fucking amazing hockey team. Yeah, I'm smiling. I'm grinning ear to ear right now.
Yeah, and if there's any new listeners to this show who are not necessarily who may be listening, well, obviously who may be listening to for the first time, or are just gauged in on the 4 major professional sports teams here in the city of Detroit. A quick disclaimer, I don't know, a quick preface that we talk a lot of soccer. So when you do listen to this show, there are going to be topics revolving around soccer. And as Garret just mentioned, he just did a podcast, which he's been doing for quite some time now, about a German club in the Bundesliga.
Yep, das ist super und fantastisch.
So and not only that, Garret is Garret, you have a and this isn't even on the agenda, so this, I know it's already going to make us long, but this is a chance for us to further introduce ourselves. Garret, you've obviously we follow Detroit City, and we actually have a topic about Detroit City FC coming up later on, but you are somebody that follows multiple European professional football teams. One of them, Crystal Palace, who is in the Premier League. Another one is Frankfurt, who is in the Bundesliga.
Yep.
And there's a couple of other ones. So why don't you just tell everybody who those other ones are?
So my main 2 loves are Crystal Palace and Eintracht Frankfurt.
In Europe.
In Europe, both Eagles or Adler. But then also in France, Stade Rennes, Rayo Vallecano in Spain. And then I'll say Atalanta in Italy and Sturm Graz in Austria.
And myself, I follow Arsenal in the Premier League, Celtic in the Scottish Premiership, and really that's it. I don't really follow anybody else in Europe.
Did you say St. Pauli?
I really don't follow St. Pauli a whole lot anymore. A little bit. I am happy that they are doing better this year. Where are we at? They're about ready to get promoted, right?
They beat Holstein Kiel in a battle of first and second in the Bundesliga, and now they're 6 points clear with 11 matches to go.
Yeah, so they're going to get promoted to Bundesliga next year. So maybe Garret and I will get a little banter going next year when St. Pauli are in Bundesliga. And
if anything, the banter won't just be between the 2 of us. It'll be between the many people that are some of St. Pauli fans that I already love to shoot the shit with on the game. So heads up, y'all. You're being warned.
and Garret has no place to talk any type of shit when it comes to Premier League, just because.
To quote Andy Ridgway, I have become an expert on how to deal with pain.
Well, the other bullshit too is Everton getting points back. I'm sure you saw that today.
I did resend the Joel. So to give people some context, Everton were deducted, who are one of the 2 big clubs in Liverpool, who are, as our friend Dennis pointed out, 983 meters apart from each other in the city of Liverpool. I don't know what that is in American stuff, so I'll just stick it to meters. But long story short, Everton were deducted 10 points from the league due to financial improprieties, in return how much money they lost over the course of a 3-year period. I watched something briefly in the term, I think it was Joel Prince Orstein, from the did an outside report. Everton did an appeal saying that they understood that they were going to be over the maximum amount of money you can lose, but claimed that part of it had to do with the stadium that they were building, along with some other factors, getting the women's team going, and that lobbied for the proposal to cut it down from 10 points to 6. They were successful in that appeal and negotiations. So their 10-point deduction is now 6 points, which means they are not in the danger in the Premier League. The bottom 3 teams get relegated into the second division, which is the Championship. So Everton was 1 point away from going into that drop zone. With that 4 points getting back, they are now 5 points, but they still have to play a lot of the teams in the bottom half of the table, and then the other matches they have to play are the top teams in the table. They still have to play Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, Newcastle, Chelsea. So they're not out of the water yet. This is Everton and Arsenal have been the 2 teams, if I'm not mistaken, to have not been relegated from either what is the Premier League or before that the first division in English football. So there is a historic history is on the side. Me, I hope they fucking go down. Sorry, Kyle Clay.
So
for Detroit City. Big so Evertonian. But, they have fought even when I've expected them to be down. So anything is possible with that. There is a third of the season left in the European football across. So the big leagues, Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A in Italy, and Liga in France. So I think that is the education. For further discussions on education, just see my regular Twitter account, or if you see me at City Clubhouse on the weekends.
And I'm gonna practice my segues here, just because I haven't been a regular host on a podcast in quite some time. But another league that has a heavy European influence is hockey. And we're gonna go ahead and get into the Detroit Red Wings. Garret, last night was electrifying. Mm-hmm. Saturday was electrifying. Red Wings win last night, 3-2 overtime. Patrick Kane. You couldn't write the script any better. You couldn't finish the story any better.
Yep. God, I love that. Not just
American Nightmare finishes the story last night in Chicago.
A former Blackhawk feeding it to the biggest former Blackhawk play-in on a day where big Blackhawk former wing gets his number raised and gets the winning goal against the former Red Wing goalie.
I know it is so weird how that works out, but yeah. And Patrick Kane gets what was it? It was 2 of the last. He got the past 2 overtime winners because he scored last night in Chicago, and then the previous game that went to overtime was against Colorado, where the Red Wings had to come back from a deficit to win that game as well, just like they did last night. But Garret, right now, the Red Wings are 8 points clear of the playoff line. They still have that first wild card spot in the East. They are 4 points behind Toronto. And when you look at things right now with Detroit, and you look at where things were at the beginning of the season, I know there was a lot of people heading into this year saying that it was playoffs or bust. And I thought that was – I didn't think that was totally sober-minded. I thought that the Red Wings weren't going to make the playoffs this year, and they still haven't. There's still time left, but I think they're in very, very good position to do that. I didn't think that they were going to make the playoffs this year because I didn't think that they had enough offensive capability to put them over that mark this year. Right. Obviously, that wasn't the case. And you know what? They looked good offensively before Patrick Kane came on. And right now, like I said, they are put in a very good spot where they are going to make the postseason. When I look at this, though, when I look at the end of the Ken Holland era, when I look at the mindset and the roster heading into this season, it seems like Steve Yzerman, and this may seem completely asinine to a lot of people, it seems like the Red Wings are ahead of schedule in this rebuild.
I think you're right to an extent, because we look at last year, they were surprising a lot of people when they were in the race. I think around, I'm trying to think, it was around this time or the beginning of March, where they were in the hunt, and then 2 bad games from Ottawa. And then that eventually led to moving some pieces around and eventually being, a little bit away from the playoff hunt. But a strong offseason when you look at, and a lot of questions were somewhat asked. JT Compher brought on, and his term in AAV, Daniel Sprong coming in. And you look at Alex Lyon, James Reimer, and this team has taken when our first recording, we had just come off 2 losses in the West Coast Western Canada trip to the Oilers and the Canucks. The next day after our recording, we played the Calgary Flames, and we started off getting badly outshot. We were getting hammered, and it was Reimer in goal, but Reimer made a couple of big saves. And then because I was driving around, and then I turned the TV on when we had the power play, and Kane ripped one on the power play, and then we wound up winning that game 5-0. Started off the first of the octopi sightings that we have been seeing for the last almost 10 days now. And then a big win after that, because the NHL loves President's Day and loves fucking putting games in Seattle at like 3:50 Eastern time on ESPN, which meant I got to watch hockey at my desk. Overtime winner there. Was it Sherratt that got the winner on that one in Seattle?
Yes.
So you get an overtime win there, and then you travel, and then Thursday you take on the Avalanche on Darren McCarthy night at LCA. And if you were a neutral, let alone us Red Wing sickos, that was a fun hockey game to watch. Nathan McKinnon, showing, I feel like right now, and I said this in the Molding Over Hockey Town last week, I think Nathan McKinnon, when you look at his total game right now, is the best player in the NHL at this moment. I mean, because obviously McDavid's amazing with his points and his vision and his assists and everything like that, but I look at the 200-foot game that McKinnon brings, and that goal was just an example of that, because he's just a pain in the ass to go up against, but we don't quit. Larkin getting it to a point, getting us a point, getting to overtime, and then that no look during the cycle to Kane was just, our little group of friends, we were just it lit a fire under all of us, like, okay, this might be happening, something's good's up. And then to continue the vintage train, noon puck drop Saturday, national television, a St. Louis Blues team's fighting for a wild card spot, and you beat the shit out of them 6-1. Did we look a little dead leg yesterday, playing 3 and 4, 5 and 7, 6 and 9 when you account the travel? Absolutely. And that was the Chicago Blackhawks team, given the circumstances. Chelios' name being risen to the number being to the rafters. Kane's return to Chicago. The Brinkets, I think the Brinkets played in Chicago since he's left, but
Yeah.
That magnitude.
A lot of promotion.
And that was going to be their biggest game of the year. And that team and that place was up for it too. But this team fought. I don't know how the fuck the Brinket got the equalizer, but he did, from that angle, kicking it off. But then, I know James Reimer gets a lot of flack, and sometimes deservedly, but those saves he made in key situations, especially in overtime, when Chicago put all 3 of their guys to crowd the net, or have one maybe at the top of the circle, he makes a couple of saves. The puck rolls out to the right wing boards, and the Brinket feeds it. And in my mind, at that moment, I'm like, "Where's Kane?" Because I think he's out. And then you see him take it on the Blackhawk logo. I stood up off my couch, because something special is about to happen. And Ken Daniels, Mickey Redmond. We've talked about this last episode. we can be biased, but we also, everyone else admits, they show why I think they're the best play-by-play team. And it ain't even close.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
you magnify the significance, but you also let the situation breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the Chicago Blackhawks fucking hate the Detroit Red Wings. And I think they hate us more than we hate them. That's how I feel on that, because we feel like, there's also the Leafs for us. There's the Canadians. There's Ottawa now. Avs. So, but some of them were even like, all right, that was cool. Have your moment on that. 14-4-2 since January 2nd, the Wings have been. So this is a team that's getting hot. And it's at a perfect time because Toronto, 7 wins in a row. Florida and Boston keeping hot. The Rangers, 10 wins in a row going into tonight. You have a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference playing some of the best hockey in the year right now. And we're one of those teams.
I want to take a step back too, and because you mentioned the record since January 2nd, which is incredible, especially considering, like you just mentioned, how good the East is right now.
Yeah.
I want to take a step back and kind of look at what Yzerman has been able to do this season. And I hate to shit on Ken Holland,
right?
But
it's so easy.
It's so easy, but I still feel bad in a sense just because of all the good things he did in the beginning of his tenure, and the amount of success the Wings had in the late '90s and during the 2000s and everything. But Garrett, I'm looking at first round draft picks for the Red Wings. 2005 first round draft pick Jakub Kindl. Not really anything. 07 Brendan Smith. That was their next first round draft pick.
Still, he's at the Devils still now, right? And he definitely loved wearing a tracksuit at that Stadium Series game against the Rangers. Sopranos versus Rocky that day.
2010, your favorite player, Riley Sheehan.
Oh my gosh! So, inside story. Listen to a summer episode of 451, how it compared a Detroit City player to Riley Sheehan's 2016-17, where he didn't score a goal until when I predicted he scored the last goal ever at Joe Louis Arena, and he had 2 that day, motherfucker.
Their next first round pick, 2013, Anthony Mantha.
Turning out to be okay in Washington. I'll give him that.
And you may be dealt here at the deadline pretty soon.
Yeah.
And 2013, also in the second round, they got Tyler Bertuzzi.
Hat trick in Colorado on Saturday for the Leafs, so maybe he's getting hot again.
2014, Dylan Larkin, obviously massive pick, good pick by Ken Holland there.
D-Boss.
He followed it up though with Dominic Turgeon and Christopher N.
Was that the Bert and Ernie line that we had in like one of the years? Adam, Ernie, Bertuzzi, and N. That a line?
It may have been. But in 2015, he followed it up with Evgeny Shevchenkov. Shevchenkov, yes.
Unfortunately, injury, but his younger brother's doing well in Carolina.
And never caught on. 2016, Dennis Chowalski.
Oh my God.
Had some glimpses that he could do something, but
potential.
eventually was left unprotected and went to Seattle, and I have no idea where he is now. After that, 2017, Michael Rasmussen.
Earned a contract extension this year,
but he was drafted 9th overall. I think it's fair to say that he hasn't lived up to 9th overall billing.
No, and I think he's one of those players that turned out to have. It's going to be like what Alex Lafreniere, for the Rangers, who
Mhm.
was first overall in 2020. Somebody who has potential to be a really good role player, and even Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for Edmonton too. That's another great one who took a decade before getting his first 100-point year last year with the Oilers. Somebody who unfortunately was drafted high, but I think Rasmussen's intangibles to the game is not so much your points and assists, but his overall game, and he's got the perfect. He's earned every bit. I think his growth this year has been part of the reason why we've been good. Keep going though.
2018, this is probably the one this was the final straw for Holland. Philip Zadina.
Yeah.
And he followed it up with Joe Veleno and Jonathan Bergeron. Who Bergeron is probably going to end up getting dealt here sooner rather than later, but Joe Veleno, whatever. And that was it. And you look at that, Garrett, as far as living up to first round billing since what was it? 2005. You have one, maybe two players in Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha that potentially lived up to their billing.
Right.
Whereas the majority of the other guys that came out of those picks were straight garbage. And when you take that, because you follow all of it up, Yzerman's first year, who does he go and draft? Moritz Seider.
Stud.
And he follows that up with Lucas Raymond the following year, who's having a career year this year.
Who had a sophomore slump, a bad sophomore slump last year. But he has stepped his game up also too. His confidence is there. I love it.
Yep. And then he followed that up in 2021 with Simone Edvinsson, who is fighting for a spot right now on the big club. He's stuck in Grand Rapids basically because there isn't a spot for him on the NHL team.
Cholowski, by the way, is Dennis Cholowski is in the Islander system. However, he is playing for the Bridgeport Islanders in the American Hockey League currently.
Again, and that was a first round pick. That was one of Detroit's first round pick. But again, when I was mentioning I wanted to go ahead and take a larger look at all of this, this is exactly why the Red Wings right now, I don't think it was fair at the beginning of the season to put them in a position where you were demanding a playoff spot from them in 2023-24, just because of what led up to this year. That's a lot to ask when you missed on all of your first round draft picks, aside from maybe two.
Right.
Definitely one, maybe two, because Anthony Mantha didn't end up leading to anything. We got Richard Panik. We got
Jakob Kendall. We had Vrana, and I miss Vrana, but that things turned out the way that they did, and I think we never unfortunately got to see Vrana at his full potential. We had glimpses, man, and then I'm glad he's straightened himself out, but it's unfortunate the way it all went down.
But yeah, I mean, this is exactly why I think that it's tough to demand a playoff spot for the Red Wings heading into this season. But right now, obviously, expectations are changed, and right now they're 8 points clear of the playoff line, and they should get in. But again, that's all a testament to how well Steve Yzerman has done to reconstruct this roster, reconstruct this system to a point right now where we are ahead of schedule. Right. Now, obviously things aren't perfect. And there are questions as we head to, the final stretch of this season and into the off season. One of those questions is Patrick Kane. Since coming on, Patrick Kane, what is he? What's he have? Like 28 points in like 25 games. Yeah, it's something ridiculous like that. A guy coming off of hip resurfacing surgery, where there's been nothing to go off of when it comes to how a player is going to react to something like that.
Right.
Coming back into a lineup and playing at a level where you are going to be a regular contributor on a professional hockey team in the NHL. Not only is he doing that, Patrick Kane is one of the best players in the game right now at 35 years old, coming off of that surgery. So
Right.
The big question is right now is, how much do you offer Patrick Kane?
To give people
heading into
context,
next season?
Patrick Kane came back to signed with us. It was a 1 year at $2.5 million, I think, is what the deal was. Without really taking a look at the numbers tonight, it was a gamble in a way because, like you said, the surgery has not worked really so much. To give you context, Nicholas Backstrom, who at the Capitals I think had this, was normally in or around a point per game player, sometimes more than a point per game player. Since he's come back for it, I think he is now at 1 out of every 2 game, 1 point out of every 2. Backstrom's only played 8 games this year and has 1 point. So the fact that Kane, I wasn't expecting. I was a bit skeptical because of the surgery and because you're 35. Patrick Kane has played going on. It's wild to think, but he has played almost 20 years in the league. He was the first pick.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
He was the first pick in the 2007 draft. So 2007, 2008 was his first year in the league. I was a sophomore in college. That was 16, 17 years ago. And he's got 28 points in 27 games played, 8 points on the power play, a 14.3 shooting percentage as far as the goals on there. And early on, I think we struggled. I think he was still offering a bit, but we weren't fully clicking. And he was out for a bit with a different injury that wasn't the surfacing. Now they seem to be rolling. It's giving. We already have a deep. I'm looking at this team right now. DeBrincat, 52 points in 58 games played. Larkin, almost a point per game right now. He missed a handful of games because he can't get protected with cross checks in this league. Raymond, 48 points in 58 games played. Sprawn, 37 in 58, including a great goal yesterday. Gostisbehere, 36 points defensively. Comfer, 34. Comfer was somebody that a late friend of ours, Josh Prentice, big hockey guy. Thought he was good, but was concerned about the AAV, his contract and the term. He was like, I'm glad we brought him in. Sider having a great. So everyone, and then Kane doing what he's doing now, it's a spark. And I think you can see he's wearing the A now. It's finding, I think, it seems like this team is gelling and knowing what their roles need to be on this team. And just rolling with it. And also Alex Lyon in goal. Because
Alex Lyon has been a huge wild card. A good wild card in all of this.
Yeah.
Considering the injury we've had to Husso and the uncertainty surrounding Reimer and the general uncertainty surrounding our defense throughout the entire season, really. It's kind of come on as of late, but there's still some big-time question marks surrounding it. To finish out this Kane thing, though, again, this is going to be where Yzerman kind of earns his money here as a general manager, and this is where you're really going to, see just how good Yzerman is, because you don't want to get overambitious. You don't want to you don't want to go out and offer a 35-year-old player, a long-term deal for big money.
Well, we did with Datsuk. Yeah,
exactly. What I'm thinking with Patrick Kane, I'm hearing this thrown around a lot, is 2 or 3 at 7. If you can get Patrick Kane for 2 more seasons, for around the $7 million mark.
Is that per year or is that total?
No, that's total. Then I think the Wings are going to be in very, very good position. Now, I think that they do have a little bit of an advantage because Patrick Kane has already picked the Red Wings once, right?
Right.
He's already picked the Red Wings once. He seems to be fitting in very, very well on this team. He's got his buddy in DeBrincat here. There's already that chemistry, and the Wings are in line. They're putting themselves in to be a team that is going to win moving forward, which is a good thing. And at this point in Patrick Kane's career, that's what he wants to do. Guy's already made his money, right?
Oh,
Now
yeah,
he wants to win. He wants to win now. So the Red Wings are in a good position as far as that goes. Now, is there going to be a team out there that's going to offer Patrick Kane a ridiculous contract that the Red Wings would be stupid to match? Yes, of course, that's always a possibility. You kind of look at the same at that in the same way that you look at some of the Wings' other free agents, like Daniel Sprong. I have a feeling somebody's going to go out there, offer Daniel Sprong stupid fucking money, and the Red Wings are going to have no other choice but to let him go because you don't want to go and because
Did
the
Sprong
money
sign a
that
2-year or 1 year? I thought he signed a 2.
he's going to be an unrestricted after this season. So, so yeah, I mean that's the unfortunate case of where the Red Wings are at right now and the success that they've been having, but that's just the cost of doing business when you are a budding good team like the Red Wings are.
Right.
Real quick, Garrett, before we move on to the our next topic here is the playoffs themselves or itself. Why will the Red Wings make it, and why will they miss out? Give me one reason for both scenarios.
If we lose our edge that's been working, like we tend to give up defensively, then we're going to lose our playoff spot. Right now, I think it says all we need to do is really get 20 points in 24 games, I think is what needs to be in the playoffs. But I think we are doing the trajectory of moving onward to not only confirm playoffs, but get in as high of a place as we can. What might cost us? So I think what might cost us in the playoffs is who we might match up with. And right now, it looks like we're going through the Atlantic because of how many regulation and overtime wins the Rangers have compared to the Bruins. I kind of feel like we'll have the Atlantic. I'd rather have the Atlantic right now, especially for the first round. But why I think we'd be really, really good in the playoffs is I think we match up well with most teams in the playoffs. I think we match up well with all the Atlantic teams. The teams I do not want to match up with are the Rangers and Carolina and the Metropolitan, but we still play these teams again before the season ends, and I might feel better about that. We'll know after this week because Capitals tomorrow, Islanders on Thursday, Panthers on Saturday, all in Little Caesars Arena. And then after maybe you play Colorado and Vegas, you have a really sort of easier schedule to end the year up. Depending on how we do Tuesday and Thursday, and you can say even Saturday, that'll tell you just where should we expect this team to end the year out. I think they might get 100 points if we keep playing like this. I think it's a very good possible chance, and I think that still gets you a wild card spot because Toronto is playing out of its mind, especially Austin Matthews, who's almost averaging a goal a game in this season. The Panthers are playing like a team possessed with Alex Barkov healthy, Sam Reinhart, Bobrovsky. I think anything's possible. And that's proven to me why when you look at the Wings in Tampa Bay, they have the two wildcard teams have more points than the third automatic spot team in the Metropolitan Division in the Flyers. That tells you how good this division is and how good you have to be night in, night out to even have a chance at making the playoffs.
I think that we make it because of our depth.
Yeah.
Offensively, we don't make it because of our lack of depth on defense and the stress that will put on a goaltender like Alex Lyon, who necessarily may not be used to playing these many games.
If Lyon gets hurt, then yeah, I'm really, really concerned.
So, all right. Move along though, Garrett. We mentioned at the top of the show that we talk a lot about soccer.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about soccer on other podcasts. We talk a lot about soccer in our own conversations. Almost every night. You
Mm-hmm.
call me up, we talk about Detroit City FC all the fucking time. It is, how you talk about, how people talk about the NFL being a year-long sport. Well, we've made the Detroit City Football Club a year-long project
Mm-hmm.
for us. It's exhausting at times. It's fun at times, but very exhausting sometimes. And last year was very, very exhausting. Garrett,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and throw this to you because you've been around the club longer than I have. And I want to introduce the Detroit City Football Club to the world, to people who maybe necessarily don't know who they are, to the people who didn't realize that, yes, we do have a professional soccer team in the city of Detroit that isn't MLS. So go ahead.
So to give the background of where Detroit City is at now, we need to start with what they used to be. And that was a team that formed and started playing the summer of 2012 in the NPSL, which is a semi-pro, like not even USSF, I think it's USASA. And that, and to give you a context, that is a 2 month of the year where you have play soccer, and it's mostly like college kids that are looking for teams to play in the summer before they go back to their respective universities, and some people that are semi-pro and people that have full-time day jobs and everything like that. And if depending on how the two teams did, then you'd qualify for a cup competition, the U.S. Open Cup, and play for you that way. So from 2012 to 2015, Detroit City played at Cass Tech High School in Detroit, and what has made it stand out through that time, despite being a fourth tier U.S. soccer, was intense, and that's an understatement, fandom, and people committed to the point where they were giving their lives for this club that only played 2 months of the year, but gave it a thing in there. After 4 seasons at Cass Tech, Detroit City moved to Hamtramck, a part of a redevelopment project to get Keyworth Stadium from its was at time position current to what it was status and what it was trying to think of the right word, repair, like, the condition, there we go, to get it rehabbed enough to host a 7,500 seat stadium. That, for the first couple of months was like that. It was 2 months of the year. And then something happened in the offseason of 2018 going to 2019. As the NPSL was trying to get a league of a professional status league on there, Detroit City made a move. Ben Pierman, who was the then head coach, left to take a then assistant gig at Memphis 901, which he is now coach and high up in Charleston Battery, who took the team to the final of the league that Detroit City is in now. But in the 2018-19 offseason, Detroit City hired Trevor James, who at that time was known more for scouting at that position and being involved in personnels and everything. His first coaching gig. That year, Detroit City wound up winning their division in NPSL in the summer, being the runner-up in the regional final. And then for what was supposed to be NPSL Pro became Members Cup that year in the fall. Detroit City won the Members Cup and then applied to become and joined the National Independent Soccer Association, also known as NISA, which seems to be like death, taxes, and cockroaches and somehow existing still. But Detroit City played there for 2 seasons, winning the fall tournament in 2020, the Legends Cup in the spring of 2021, the spring championship in 2021, and then the NISA title in the summer, which was the fall and spring player playing the runner-up, and won the fall season. However, there was an opportunity. They realized at the time the condition that league, in our opinion, is somehow still existing. There was a spot because in the United States, there is no promotion relegation. If you want to move up in the leagues, it involves a little bit of this thing called money. And with that, an opportunity came and the opportunity to bring an investor in. I still don't gentleman's last name on the last name. So Matt,
Yes.
thank you, Matt Pensherd. The Detroit City was able to get a slot in USL Championship. And for the last 2 seasons, they have been in the second tier of United States soccer. And also, maybe some of the in the way which many people that might have been a fan of in the last couple of years, something big happened on April the 19th, 2022, a night that Adam and I will take with us to our graves. Detroit City 2, Columbus Crew of the MLS 1.
Blue blood of the MLS. A blue blood of the MLS.
An OG. The whole save the crew team mindset. A team that, when you think of MLS, they're one of the teams that you think of. And on a night which it was there that everything, I would say, the Detroit City that we've known ceased and a new Detroit City formed, because now you have the coverage from your local channels because we beat a team from MLS, regular coverage from newspapers, as we see great coverage by Nolan Bianchi of the Detroit News, and regular in there, and people becoming this, dare I say, this opportunity meaning more accessibility and promotion towards the club, which has caused some clashes in terms of where this club has gone as opposed to what it was to the diehards that put in the hours, the labor, the blood, sweat, and the tears on there. And they are currently going into their 3rd season in the USL Championship. Team that made the playoffs to the first season, much to a lot of people's surprise, outside of the city of Detroit, getting the last spot in the Eastern Conference and losing in the first round to Memphis 901. Last year, despite our a off season, which we were touting our own fucking horn, this one included. We're
going to do that every year, though.
Yeah, but it really almost ended us. But Detroit City got into the playoffs on the last day because they needed the team playing after us to lose, which thankfully they were playing the top team in the Western Conference. Got into the playoffs as the last seed in the Eastern Conference and took on the first place in the Eastern Conference, best record in the USL in the regular season, in the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and grinded their way throughout a game until late in, when young Dominic Gasso hit a strike from, what was it, outside the box, 20 yards out of volley?
Something like that, yeah.
Into the back of the Pittsburgh net. Pittsburgh Riverhounds 0, Detroit City 1. A week later, their playoffs and their season ended with a whimper. Not even a whimper, because to have a whimper meant that we would have had to have an attempt attacking-wise. And we are then left with this new transition era. Trevor James that was his end of his coaching. He has shifted to now a full-time sporting director role, overseeing all of the football operations, both the men and the women. His wife, Tiffany James, who's been just as vital, if not at times more vital, in the development of this club behind the scenes, whether it's meal planning, sports psychology, all of these things, even assisting in the onboarding of players, is now the vice president of sporting operations, even coaching one of the rec league teams that takes place on Saturday nights. First year coming up with new head coach Danny Dicchio, somebody who in the last couple of years was a first-team coach of the Sacramento Republic, who have been in his first year coaching, went to the U.S. Open Cup final the year that we beat the Crew, losing to the Orlando City, and then last year having the best record in the Western Conference, losing in the Western Conference final to the eventual winners of USL Championship, Phoenix Rising. Dicchio, a former striker, somebody who's played in England and Italy as a first-team striker, also in Toronto FC and MLS, scored the first goal ever in Toronto FC history. Also got the first ever red card, both in the same game. Both that in a game that one of our own in Channel 451, Alan Jacobson, was in the stands of that day in Toronto. And somebody that was attack-minded, and I think turning out to be a massive reason in the success of Sacramento Republic under Mark Briggs. Someone who is attack-minded. As a former striker, he wants goals. He wants aggression. this is shit that we love to hear for and what we are desperately needed. We had the effort over the years with Trevor James, a great goal, maybe the best goalkeeper in the USL Championship. I'm going to say I think he's the best. If he's not the best, he's in the top 3. Nate Steinwasser, a rock solid defense, midfielders who have engines, but we were lacking in service, shots, goals. We seem to address that this offseason when we talked about in the last episode. Alex Villanueva, Ali Coote, James Murphy, Ellis Mo, Matt Sheldon for defensive and midfield cover. Am I forgetting anyone off the top of my head? Oh, Carl Saldana for backup goalkeeping. And it is a transition year. Much like Trevor James's first year coaching in 2019 for an MPSL, a semi-pro side that was becoming professional, this is a Detroit City team that's now in their stage, third year in the USL. Are they going to continue to be a team that makes the playoffs on the last day or just squeak in? Or are they going to be a team that takes the next step to get to a top 4 spot, which means you can host a playoff game? And one of the things that is talked about and been raved about is this still the cavernous atmosphere, raucous atmosphere that tends to be Keyworth Stadium. And my one comment to people that were unsure what was life like pre-2020 or 2022 and all that, if people are saying that that was a raucous environment in 2023 and 2022 and all that, you should have seen it years ago. You right, Adam?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was there a little bit pre-pandemic. I went to a few games at the end of 2019. My first game was against. It was during the Members Cup at the end of 2019 against Napa Valley, which is a great game. Tons of rain, but great game. Detroit won.
4-0.
I think one of the goals came via Yazid Matthews' penalty.
Might have been 3-0 actually, but yeah.
But Yazid Matthews is still on the team. There's still a few guys on the team during that 2019 run to the Members Cup title who are on this team currently this season, the men's side.
Nate Steinwasser, Stephen Carroll, Yazid Matthews, Lijap was on that summer team that year.
Yep. Lijap was on that team too, yep.
Matt Lewis was on the first NISA team, scored the first goal in men's professional in the NISA era at LA Force, February 2020.
Where's this club at right now, Garrett? Because it's not just the men's team now.
The women's, there's also the women's side, which is becoming more and more. This is also going to be a transition year for the women. The women are much like what the men used to be in the old days, a semi-professional team playing in the USLW League currently, which is like the old MPSL days for the men, a 2-month-of-the-year campaign, much like high school and college players looking for places to play with some professional players. The men are getting a reserve side this offseason. This coming season, they'll be playing in UPSL. Apparently, there's supposed to be talks the women will be getting the second side.
Yep.
What league that is and where we will find out relatively soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
One thing that Adam did talk about this year was that a couple of the current full-time people in the Detroit City thing, because there's some that are full-time are involved with the club as far as coaching youth sides or being involved in the programs. There's a lot of for recreation in that. Used to play with some indoor teams in the area, including Detroit Wasaflo, but wanted a chance for the opportunity to play indoor soccer under the Detroit City banner and crest, which led to Detroit City forming a women's indoor team under the PASL League. Which my description of PASL, remember what I was saying about NISA? NISA still has somewhat of a structure compared to PASL because it's like the fucking Wild West. But the last 2 months now, we have been what the club was unsure of what to expect about this indoor soccer, as for us, has been 5 sold-out appearances at Detroit City Fieldhouse. Entertaining experiences of soccer, including a 15-1 win over said Detroit Wasaflo. You just had to be there, man.
And
And
Gary, that's the thing. That's the thing about soccer in this city and in this area of Michigan. That yes, you go to these men's games, during the course of the year, and it's crazy. It may not be, pre-pandemic levels of crazy, but it is still crazy. It is still a unique atmosphere in American soccer. In
right,
some ways, same thing with the women's team, the W League team. You still get a very supportive atmosphere there. Um, relative to women's soccer, unfortunately, in this country, it still needs to be built up. It still
right.
needs to, it still needs time to get, that support that the men's side has built up, since 2012. But again, when I was mentioning though about just the level of support that this city gives this club, and you just mentioned it, Garrett, they've had 5 indoor games. First season, PASL, 5 indoor games at the clubhouse.
Hmm.
They've pretty much sold out every single one of those.
Which is
Now,
about 450 people that you can fit in that.
yes, and people need to put that in perspective for themselves, because
Plus the bar that aren't in the field house watching the game too. That's almost another
exactly,
100 to 200 in the bar.
exactly, and it's remarkable. And when I was talking to Alex Wright, one
One
of
of
the
the
owners of Detroit City. And I didn't get the feeling that they were, that shocked about it. That was my impression. I don't want to put words in his mouth or feelings on it, but that was just my impression of it, Garrett, is they weren't completely shocked at the sellouts. Maybe because, they've seen this level of support um, over the past, decade
decade.
plus.
Right.
So, yeah, it is really remarkable. And Garrett, when you look at people talking about this team, following this team, and the argument being put out there is, oh, well, why does Detroit have MLS?
Mm.
Detroit doesn't need MLS. And I always ask people when they come with that question, and in some sense that argument, why do we need MLS? Garrett, why do we need MLS?
People that ask the question about why is Detroit City not an MLS, they think of it from a and I can get this perspective when you don't see the views and everything like that. You were taught for these are the views that I have been taught in the country that I was raised in, the sporting systems of the country that I
Yes.
live in, which is there's no lower leagues and stuff like that. Lower leagues are considered minor leagues.
Minor leagues.
And minor leagues, and these are franchised in systems. Teams are created by owners nowadays, especially with a fuck ton of cash, that have stadiums that are built within municipalities that are then raised like anywhere from $300 to $700 million, and then and franchising fees and everything like that. MLS is the top of American soccer as far just because it is, unfortunately, they have a closed system. And because of that, it is treated the same way like the NHL, the MLB, the NBA, the NFL. Maybe not to the same level, because MLS is still, in my opinion, a peon compared to the big four leagues in not just in the U.S. but in North America in general. However, those people that are in those things have the mindset that because it's the top league, like the NHL, like the respective things, there has to be something representation into the city. And these are also people that probably aren't taking the time to watch soccer die hard regularly. By soccer, I'm not talking about the U.S. playing in tournaments or the or women in the tournaments or Olympics or anything like that. I am talking about getting up at sometimes ridiculously stupid early fucking times either in your house or to go to an establishment that is also up at a stupid fucking early time to watch a club that you're taking interest in. Or in my case, somebody that has gone to the United Kingdom 3 separate occasions to watch Crystal Palace, Oldham Athletic, which is in Greater Manchester, now a National League team, but was one of the founding members of the Premier League. I've seen Aston Villa play, and then I've also been to Germany to see 3 Eintracht Frankfurt matches. That's a level of sicko commitment that I don't expect many people to do on there. But that's the type of a lot of diehard soccer fans that form and that are in the Detroit City base, including many people that this was their introduction to soccer.
Yep.
So, with that being said, do I think we need MLS? Absolutely not. Do I understand somebody who's not in the scene or not aware of, or not with the complete open mindset, or dare I say the sports talk radio crowd of the 97.1 tickets,
Sure.
WDFNs, WSNs type things of the era, which, is a hot take. Because they're not talking about us, we must not be considered important. I get that, to each their own. I'm not going to go on and try to be the great persuader tonight on this. But what I'm saying is this: if you like soccer outside of the world, if you like the passions that you see, and not just even in Europe, hell, watch a match in South America, in Argentina, where you literally have, from basically my couch to my chair, 2 football clubs in stadiums. What was it? Racing Club versus Independiente in Buenos Aires, which has 13 teams in one city. We have territory rights, which means only one team can be in one city to give people, even in USL Championship. So if you love the game around the world, there is slowly but surely, I think, more interest to eventually allowing a promotion, relegation, or even, say, USL getting up to D1 sanctioning, which means it would be on the same level of sanctioning that MLS is currently in. You see a system like this in Canada, in the Canadian Premier League, there's 3 MLS teams in Canada currently right now: Toronto FC, CF
Vancouver,
Montreal.
and Montreal.
Yeah. So what that means in that sense in Canada, there's the Canadian Premier League teams, there's the 3 Canadian MLS teams. The 3 Canadian MLS teams are in the Canadian Cup competition with the Canadian Premier League teams, and then semi-pro teams that are below on there too, where there's a point there should be a team in Windsor, or talking about maybe Windsor within the next 5 to 10 years or roughly like that. Point being is, if you love soccer across the world, this is more of the grassroots thing. When you're seeing people from Europe or anything coming in and seeing this is the type of thing that reminds them of home. The stands, the passion, community. Now, whether as us that are really deep in the heart of it and to know about it, maybe feeling like we're losing some of that one way or another because, we're getting bigger. It's, we're becoming broader. We're becoming, to quote Rocky III, a bit more civilized. You got that reference. Perfect. I understand all of those things. And for more of those individual takes, there's not just Channel 451, but also great Detroit City podcast and content over the years. What used to be WNGS radio, and that was the Detroit City Supporter Radio, DCFCFC podcast, Boys in Rouge content. Michael Kitchen's works over the years, his city historian. I mean, back to fucking close to day 1, 2012.
He was there day one. Day one.
I mean, I've only, Adam, you mentioned you've been in 2019-ish. I've been in since May of 2017. My first game was the Glen Torren friendly, Memorial Day weekend against Keyworth Stadium. A lot of things happened that year. The match that gave the name of the channel that we are part of, 451, happened. And then Lansing United was 1 week later, the 3-0 comeback. If you saw a guy that looked like a ghost in the gold section because they went shirtless from the 3-0 comeback, I'm sorry, not sorry. But Mondi, with all these great things, there was a lot of big years. But if you really love soccer from abroad, I think you'll at least get yourself to a Detroit City match and see what you think about it. You may not. Granted, I admit that these supporter sections and stuff may not be for everybody. I understand that. But see what it is about the game that you love and see if you can stick to it. That means you want to come back a second time and a third time and a fourth time to the point where you want to get season tickets, or to the point where you're like Adam and I, and now we are supporter journalists.
And the thing is, too, is it's extremely accessible. That's the other thing, too, real quick, just so we can finish things out and, get to our post game real quick. That one of the big arguments against Detroit City and against lower league soccer in general is its accessibility, a fan's ability to go and watch it on TV. You can make a good argument that Detroit City is the most accessible professional team in Detroit to catch on television. This season, they're going to be on CBS or Paramount, CBS Sports, that app, the Golazo, app, which I think you get directly through Paramount.
It's a free. You can watch the matches for free on the games that are on CBS Sports.
Yep, and then ESPN Plus as well. And then I believe there is still a local contract that still needs to be announced. So Detroit City is incredibly accessible when it comes to being able to catch games on TV if you can't make it out to Keyworth. More so than the Red Wings and the Pistons and the Tigers are, who are stuck on that god awful network at Bally Sports.
Also going to matches too.
Yes.
Going for especially for like the family of 4 and 5, the amount of money, the level that it is for a ticket, any levels of tickets, and food in that, you're saving a considerable ton compared to going to one of the big 4 sporting events. I think the lowest ticket price you can get for a game is roughly $12. Yep. There's going to be some games where there might be less than that, depending on the time of the year. But there's different levels for the type of experience that you want to get in. There's also a lot of different culture, like food trucks with different foods promoting the city, different regions of the city and the surrounding areas. So if anything, it's a good opportunity to maybe learn some things about, it's a lesson not just so much about soccer and stuff, but lesson about the different things that make up the community of Metro Detroit and the surrounding communities, and the different people and groups that make up those communities.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in hearing more about Detroit City FC, the club in general, the men's and women's teams, make sure you tune in to the Tunnel Talk over at channel 451, 451.themajorsports.com or themajors.net/channel 451. We're also going to continue to talk about it here on the Detroit City Sportscast. Moving forward, we're going to hope to have some guests on here, some regulars, hopefully, later on down the road. So stay tuned for that. Garrett, I wanted to get into our post game because we are in hour 3 over right now on this recording, which I think is pretty good, all things considered. Some of our other podcasts. The DCSC post game. We're going to start off with the Tigers. Winners today, 4-0 over the Houston Astros in Grapefruit League play. They are coming off a 9-9 tie yesterday against the Tampa Bay Rays, which they surrendered a lead. I can't remember how big of a lead they surrendered.
I think they were up 9-3, if I recall right.
Were they up at 9-3 at one point? And then that awful opening game against the New York Yankees, where they surrendered 22 runs or something like that. I don't want to put too much into spring training. I do want to lead this into a bigger topic though that's coming down the road. Maybe our next recording, when it comes to the Tigers off season. And the lack of signings so far this season for this team, getting an established bat in this lineup, which is something that plagued them last year. So hopefully we'll be getting to that in a future, very, very coming up on a future show. Because obviously spring training only lasts for so long, and it'll be over before you know it. We'll be hitting opening day before you know it. Garrett, take it away. What's our next topic here in the post game?
We're going to talk about Detroit Lions stuff real quick. Tracy Walker was released last week. We thank Tracy for, obviously the contributions that he brought playing for the Lions, and we wish him well moving forward. Two existing pieces were re-signed. Michael Badgley, 1 year, kicker Michael Badgley, was it 1 year, 1.5 mil? Obviously for those that are wondering, I think now the Detroit Lions are going to they'll use Badgley in specific field goal situations that'll benefit, but I will not be surprised if this team sets a record for most attempted fourth downs that cannot be beat by any team in the next 20 to 50 years. Also, news that popped in today via Mike Garafolo and then Nolan Bianchi, quoting it, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Pro Bowl special teamer, someone who made something out of his opportunity that was given, is agreed to a contract extension, 2 year, $7.5 million deal. It would be a max at $8 million. It would make him the highest paid core special teamer ever. How are you feeling about that move?
Yeah, it's I'm fine with it. I wasn't. I mean, the first one, the Michael Badgley one. I mean that. You're hoping that they would be able to get somebody in a little bit more reliable than Michael Badgley,
right?
Just so you're not depending on those fourth down conversions so much. You don't have to go for it as much. I don't know. That might just be in Dan Campbell's nature, though, so it may not have mattered who they have in there. But you still want to get somebody in there who's more reliable. But I don't want to completely throw Michael Badgley out the window, because he did get that big field goal in the wild card game against the Rams. So
take that for your stats, Jinx, NBC, because he fucking could have made that 60.
But yeah, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, I'm totally cool with that. Those are the types of guys that really help round out your roster and help you get to that next level, which we saw that Lions team get to this past season.
We are now also 2 months away from the NFL draft, folks. April 25th through the 27th taking place. There's going to be plenty of things going on. And, folks, there is going to be a very good possibility that on that weekend you're going to have the NFL draft. You're definitely going to have a Tigers series. They're taking on the Kansas City Royals that weekend. And you're going to, if this way teams are going in, a Detroit Red Wings playoff game all in the same fucking week. Thankfully, Detroit City FC will be going to their favorite place away, which is Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh. I remember I can't be too supportery on this podcast. But so there's going to be a lot going on that weekend. But obviously, we'll keep people in when free agencies starting. Is it March 1 for NFL, or relatively close to it?
I believe so, but we also have the combine this week as well, too.
So there's going to be probably a lot of things coming up with the Detroit Lions. We'll keep people in the loop. I'm also look to see some more molding down the field content with some of these announcements that are coming in, like we've been doing with molding over City and molding over Hockeytown. One that I really haven't been doing for because I haven't felt the urge. You're going to talk about the Pistons because somebody's got to.
Yeah, real quick, Kate Cunningham dropped 26 the other night and lost the Orlando Magic, where Banchero hit that last second three to put Orlando over the top in that one.
Right, they're playing tonight.
Yep, Pistons continue to lose. They're down right now 92-84 to the New York Knicks in Manhattan. Just over a minute left in the third in that one.
Shout out to Matt Feldbush, by the way, friend of the podcast, dropping the stat line over the weekend. The Pistons have the 13th hardest schedule to end the season right now. So, yeah.
They're going to be in line for a big pick, but again, I want to get to this topic later on too, Garrett. Do we want Troy Weaver spending that money this offseason? It's a conversation we've had in private. I think it's a conversation that we should have on the pod.
Yeah, we got
down the
to.
road.
I'll bring back that one note real quick because we talked about it in May when the lottery happened because on 451 because that time San Antonio was coming in to play Detroit. Much like Talladega Nights, we proved last year you could be first or you're last. However, people were high thinking that when it came to the draft, you could be second, third, fourth, or like us, hell, you could have been fifth.
Garrett, do you have anything to close out the show with?
Not really other than much. Just real cool. Obviously we got a lot of things coming on in the city of Detroit sports. Let's see, big wake for the wins. Detroit City Land friendly this week. Saturday, Detroit City has an away day in their own house, taking on Waza as the home team. But to kind of learn more about see what goes on in the Detroit City supporter community, there is going to be an event that I know Adam has a big part in at the bar, the upstairs bar of Detroit City Fieldhouse, which is Detroit City Clubhouse. It is the Northern Guard supporters Kill the Keg event, which helps yearly make sure that allows them to do the fun shit, the fun rambunctious shit that they do on match days. Adam, am I missing anything else in that?
No, all you got to do is come down and drink to support it. So I don't think that's really that hard to do for a lot of people out there. Come down, come drink, and you're supporting the operations when it comes to this upcoming season for Detroit City's biggest supporters group, the Northern Guard supporters.
And you'll get to see the opportunity if you stay for the match on that too. You get to see some opportunities on there too, with includes some content that we'll do for post-match stuff, whether it's recaps or potentially interviews with coaching staff and players of the Detroit City women's team. So a lot of cool things there. A lot of cool stuff with the league, club shop merch stuff. There's a lot of things in there, including a bar that you can eat and drink as much as you'd like.
Yeah, and as far as for me, like I said. There's not going to be a recording this week for Tunnel Talk 451. That'll resume, I believe, next week. However, for more city content, you can check that out over at the Major Sports and Channel 451, 451.themajorsports.com or themajors.net/Channel 451. You can check out the rest of our content at themajorsports.com. If you want your Detroit stuff, Detroit.themajorsports.com, where you can get all of the mulleting stuff as well, which is great. Garrett does a really good job for that. So are we good, Garrett?
Personals, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, find me at GM Comats. Adam, where they can find you in case they want to engage in discussion.
Twitter, TMSNX Adam.
Right. So we're often
as well.
Yeah, fun times. We've only just begun, folks. But thank you for taking time to watch this and listen to us. Until the next time, just night, motherfuckers.
We'll see ya.